Have you ever heard the expression, no person is an island? Well, this pearl of wisdom seems completely counterintuitive when it comes to victims and survivors of gender-based violence and abuse. Victims and survivors often not only feel isolated, but literally become isolated from everyone for a myriad of reasons, which I will explore in this latest episode of Tiaras Tears and Triumphs. And those victims and survivors living in places like Melbourne, Australia, where we are still in hard lockdown, are made even more restricted and vulnerable than ever before. Fortunately, I'm in regional Victoria, and that allows me to have more freedom. We've just come out of this really harsh lockdown, and today everyone was just coming out of the woodworks because they haven't been able to go any further than 5 kilometres from home. But for people who are in Melbourne and the regions in and around Melbourne, they're still in this hard lockdown, and this really impacts on the people who are most vulnerable, which are those people who are victims and survivors of domestic abuse. So now, even though this expression, no person is an island, seems counterintuitive when it comes to victims and survivors of abuse, there is no escaping this universal law by which the ripple effect plays out. So let's explore how and look at ways to help victims and survivors who are isolated. So this episode has come about because it was Are You OK Day in Australia yesterday. This day reminds all Australians to remember to ask others the simple but caring question, are you okay? So many victims and survivors are not okay. And as I said, in places like Melbourne, they are restricted even more by this hard lockdown that they are in. But what about their extended families? Are their extended families okay? There is a saying, a parent is only as happy as their happiest child. So this is the tip of the ripple effect when it comes to victims and survivors of abuse. Family members will more than likely be worrying about the safety and the well-being of the victim or survivor. The reason that I am including survivors in this context, in this conversation, is because the well-being and sometimes the safety of survivors who break free from a cycle of abuse can still be really uncertain, and there may be ongoing concerns of risk to their safety. And their mental health may have long-term or permanent needs for support. Now, in an ideal world, there would be no abuse and there would be no violence, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the reality of the world that we live in right now is one where 1 in 4 women have experienced some form of abuse. In an ideal world, every woman and girl would be able to go through life without the fear of being abused. But the reality is that women are hurt by intimate partners and random attackers. I have touched on parents of victims and survivors being impacted by the concerns that they have for their child. And if those parents are grandparents also to children of the victim or survivor, then the chances are that they will have similar concerns for the well-being and safety of their grandchildren. The stress of worry put on family members can be taxing on their own mental health and their general well-being too. Not only is the victim or survivor made to feel powerless by the perpetrator, the people who care about them are also made to feel powerless because they don't know what to do to improve the situation. And the sad fact is that justice can often take a long time to catch up with perpetrators. So the ripple effect of worry and concern can have long-lasting effects on both victims and survivors and people who have some connection to them. There will also be, as I said, some people with connection to them. There will also be friends of the victim or survivor who will have similar concerns and feelings of powerlessness. And what of the massive ripple effect in the lives of the children of victims or survivors who are either victims or survivors themselves? One of the greatest burdens mothers who are victims or survivors feel is the knowledge that their inability to keep themselves emotionally level because of the damage that has been done to their nervous system that leaves them in this hypervigilant state, which makes them ready to snap like a rubber band being stretched to its absolute limit. Well, this energy is being soaked up by their children. So these children of victims and survivors end up mirroring what is going on for the mother. And these anxieties all come out in different ways in the children. And on one hand, they're dealing with this constant stress. The mother of the children is dealing with this constant stress of the fear of uncertainty about what might happen next to harm them or the children. And then on the other hand, they're trying their absolute best to keep life as normal as possible for their children, making sure that the children get whatever they can from her to make them feel loved and secure. But it never seems to be enough because there's always this fraught, stressed out energy that she's unable to remove because of the situation and the cycle of abuse that she's caught in or has been caught in. So as much as that's the case, I know that your mums will try to find moments wherever possible to create a happy memory for their children, because that is their desire, is still for their children to grow up and to have some happy memories to be able to look back upon in their lives, even though the mother will know that their lives have been far, far from being picture perfect and happy all the way through. Now you might ask, how do I know all of this? Well, because I have been there, my friend. After 6 years of having no alarming triggers from my ex-partner, I am happy to say that my nervous system has healed to a very, very large degree. That's not to say that I don't still have my triggers that take me back to that time where I had lost all sense of security in life. But thankfully, for the most part, I can't believe I'm going to say this, because for what seemed like forever, I really didn't feel this way. But dare I say it, I feel quite normal now. I feel strong, I feel grounded, I feel secure, and I feel empowered, which is just amazing to be able to say these things. So I don't take feeling this way for granted, not even for 1 second, because I know the price I had to pay, and I know the price that many others in my life paid to get me to this place in my life now, where I am free to live my life without the constant fear of always looking over my shoulder and having that feeling of just feeling like a sitting duck. I know that the ripple effect of my domestic violence situation I know the impact that it had on myself. I know the effect that it had on my children. I know the effect that it had on my family, my friends, my colleagues, the professional service providers who were trying to keep myself and my children safe. So what I do know from my experience is that as much as I felt alone so many times in my life, that I was, in a way, I was alone, but I was never alone at the same time. And I'll explain more about what I mean when I say that. I feel really blessed because I had some amazing help from exceptional people like Rosie Batty,